Hey guys, this one is going to be a total of 5 Moffett lifts, and these are 3-wheel brickyard lifts. I am at a brickyard, Alabama, and what we're doing is we're taking these back up for servicing. And most of these units had flat tires. It took quite a bit of logistics. They did not have a proper loading area, so what they were doing was they hired a tire company to come out and fix the tires, and then they got a rollaway, which is, you've seen the platform wreckers, not the big ones with the boom, but the platform where they tilt it and can, lift the car up and then pull it up on to the platform. Many times they'll use a rollaway like that to put the unit up there. They'll tilt the bed, they'll drive it up on there, then they'll back up to my trailer and then drive it right on. And that's what they did with each one. So we had a qualified person do the driving. I've never run one of these. Too much liability, not enough room. I didn't know the equipment. I wasn't doing it. So we're midway through tie down, and I'm going to explain, and then I will do multi-sections of the video so you can understand some of the steps that I'm doing. So what I had to do is I had to determine the thickness of this area here, because there are no tie-down sections. So going over directly over this, it is used equipment. It is beat to rat, and so I was not worried about getting a grab right there because it's thick plate. It's on the other side here. There's a rail where everything slides in and out, and it is 1-inch plate. So it's definitely thick enough with all the things welded together to withstand my traditional grab. So we have 1 chain, 2 binders on the heaviest portion where it's wheel control and load control up front. The next thing you're going to see is 2-inch straps being pulled through. Now, one of the requirements of any hydraulic lift boom style equipment is a strap over the boom, for a reason that if anything moves, control or a hydraulic lever or something activates, and that boom goes high and I strike a bridge, bad day for all. So DOT requires, as far as I know, I mean, I've always done it, and that's the way they taught us, the way they showed us. I think I saw it in the rule book, don't quote me, but you have to put one over the forks. So any forks you see, forked equipment like that that rises, you have to put some kind of containment device over there. So I'll use a 2-inch strap, and I'll tighten it down, and it'll at least keep that in check. So usually something that would move like that wouldn't be under full hydraulic pump power, but it would be mostly just a leakage, and it would cause sometimes the boom to rise. So we're going to control that with a 2-inch strap. Now, being these are 3-wheel, you can see they nested the next unit inside and actually went right underneath the tires, and really it's not going to rise, but the thing is, because it's nested, I'm not taking any chances for them to pick me over. So what I'm doing is each one will have that. And they changed it from 3 units here to, and 1 unit at another location, to 4 units here, and also pick up the 5th unit. Luckily, I'd already bought extra 3/8 gear. I had 4 extra new chains, and I had 4 extra brand new 3/8 binders. So I've covered all that, and so I've got some of my new chains with from the old binders, and that's no problem. I've got enough stuff. I've got 4 more old red ratchet binders, because I really don't want to use levers. There's really not, you can do it, but there's just not as much room. So I found it to be more of a hassle. I'll make sure I use the red ones, and there's tons of room, as you can see. There's tons of room for that one. It'll probably end up about 1.5 feet, 2 foot shy. So 41 foot bottom, 10 foot top. I've got plenty of room for round number 5, which is going to be a single unit pickup. Then they go back to St. Louis for their refit or whatever they do, because they are pretty much, I think they're just rental units. So we'll make sure they get up there in one piece, and DOT is going to be satisfied with my work, because I was told that they do frequent this road quite often. So, you know, heavy loads of bricks, and we'll make sure everybody's got their act together. That's fine. So I've got everything set, and I have a whole duffel bag full of carpeting, and I felt the edges, and they're all right, but I'd rather, because of just the style of step that it is, I'll just stick a piece of carpet in here. That makes me happy, and well, you know how I am with happy. We like happy. So that's pretty much what it is at this stage of the video. Height is good, as long as all the booms are down, and they are. Everybody's got their act together. There is no keys in the units. I don't have to worry about that. They had a master key that they used, and they'll have a master at the other end. So not sure how they're going to arrange everything, but we'll get up there and we'll get the 5th unit put on. I'm sure it's going to be in the morning, because right now in this section of Alabama it's Eastern time, so it's kind of weird. It looks like it's central, but it's not. So I'll get all these tied down, and I'll come back and I'll show you the final here in just a bit. But that's what I wanted to get, was a strap over this for more of the straight down control of the back end. Even though they're underneath the forks, and that's all cool, this one is not. So I want to make sure that it's not going to do any kind of side to side, and it shouldn't. And I'm not a crazy driver anyways. You can see it's just a pivot wheel for steering. And as long as that's all good to go, you know, the next one that gets on there, I'll just have to keep an eye on everything. So it's really weird. I don't have any other place to go except way the back here, just to kind of get some kind of extra control to kind of keep it from going anywhere. We'll do the best we can. That's about it. Okay, we'll be on to the next shot here in a minute. Okay, here's part 2. Now we've got everything tied down. I just have to tie up with bungees to get these all wrapped. So I've got my carpeting. Everything is working really well. Different grabs just depends on where I happen to come from. Make sure that everything is seated. Did have one that I had to bump, and because if it settles, you know, then it's going to come loose. So I want to make sure, you know, I bumped all these. This should be pretty good. This one, you know, it's just weird, just the way the trailer is, you know, it's the way it's built. If I had my own way, I would set up a design slightly different than what they have going on here, but we'll make it work. So everything looks really good so far, both sides. As you can see, I don't have a lot of room to work with. You know, it's probably an inch or so, and everything's good here. You know, it's inside, and that's what counts. You know, it's just barely going to make it. You know, these are not super tight when they're at that kind of angle, but it's, you know, it's what I got to deal with. Things seem really well, really good to go. Sometimes you can use chain pockets. In this particular case, I was not able to. Now you can notice that they do have these hydraulic stops, and they probably help a little bit, and they are touching. I mean, the guy bumped right up against the other machines, so there really is no gap. And on these big bolt 3/4 inch plate, my guess, and, you know, 1/4 inch plate on this to 3/8. So this is really you know, as strong as you can see. It's just fine to put a strap on. Always check mounting and make sure there's nothing flimsy, because if you start bending stuff, then that's just bad news. So what I'll do is I'll end up picking a few pieces of gravel off, making sure everything's tight one final time, tighten up my and bungee each group of 2-inch strap leftovers. The way I fold mine, I do it end over end, you know, at about arm's length, and then I do a simple granny knot, and it just works out. And I tighten it up on itself, give it a wrap and a bungee. Never had them come loose. Once they're done like that, it's all good. So you see, overall, everything is just fine. I still, you know, and there was no truck and trailer wash. I'm going up in the salt again, but it should be good to go. Everything should be just fine. Pretty decent looking load. I mean, it should ride just fine. Heights are all good. You know, some of them are a little more extended than others, but that's just the way it was, the way they had it tilted. It's not too high. It's all good. You can see this is right up against it, and I just want to make sure that, you know, there is no settling, there's no anything that I could do that'd be different. That steel plate that it's up against, and I've got these down pretty darn tight. I don't want anything to force forward or whatever and do any damage to the trailer. So that's the best I could come up with there. As far as putting any wood there, wood wouldn't really would stop anything, I don't think, unless I had, you know, but I wouldn't have any way to really tie it down to hold it there, so it'd be a liability. So I just look at it as, you know, it's a trailer. It's meant to use, meant to haul. It's going to get scratches a little bit here and there, but I'm going to make sure there's no, you know, heavy-duty damage. But I briefed down on these pretty good, pretty tight. Got a little oil leakage over there. Watch out for stuff like that when you get up after you unload. Slip ball, that kind of thing. That's no good, you know. But it happens when you're hauling hydraulic anything. Sometimes they leak, and that's just stuff to watch for. Okay, probably not going to shoot another section here, and just get the heck out of here, get on down the road, and then when we get up to the other fifth piece tomorrow, I'll show you how all that goes. Maybe I can even catch some of the guys loading it too. So, see you on the road. Oh, sorry I couldn't get the loading video for you guys. The guy was brand new, and I had to kind of watch and help him get everything on here. But he did a pretty good job. He's pretty even over here. I tightened up that side pretty well. He's about as even as he's going to get. And I ran out of, you know, the folding handle, you know, ratchet binders, so I had to use some of the old red ones, but they're good. I just went up a little bit further because they're, you know, just the way a little bit longer in right here. As far as working with tighter spaces, I had to get to where I had a handle swing. I didn't have much, you know, but that's the way it worked. And I think it's going to be pretty good to go. This is probably the most stable area is back here on the spread. I used a 3-inch on the back here because I just ran out of 2-inch. I had a broken 2. I haven't replaced them yet, so I had some nice 3-inch. And that carpeting, of course, and everything, but it all fit. So everything is pretty stable, pretty good to go. Same with, you know, get the feet down just right and having the tires where they're touching. It wasn't I'm putting all the weight on there, so I had to adjust everything for that and have him, you know, lift her or do whatever, because he was fairly new at it. And he was freaking out going from the rollaway tow truck, you know, down onto here. But the guy did put the deck right on my flatbed, or on the step deck, and he was able to roll through. There wasn't really a lot of bounce. It was a sinking of a couple inches, and that freaked him out. But we got it. Boy, I wish I could get a trailer wash and trucker wash, I'm telling you. But I've been in areas where they didn't have any. So we shall see. And I'm going right back up into the salt and the nasty. We'll see how it goes, what kind of the weather they've got going. If I run into any rain, that'll help rinse a lot of that salt and stuff off too. But Everything's secure. As you can see, there's 5 units with room to spare, at least 3 feet. So there shouldn't be any issues. Let me step back. Let me put it and try and hold it stable so you can see. I'll move it a little bit to the side and back. You can kind of see how it is. So no problems. Now everything, because of the camber of the road, I try and tighten it up first on the left side to make sure, you know, there's I'm not dragging stuff even further, because the camber of the road, stuff will scoot and settle, and you just want to make sure that this side is tightened first. That's my opinion. And don't over drag it, because you actually can drag the equipment sideways with this, just a little bit at a time, especially if it's sitting on rubber. It'll drag the unit. I've had to reposition stuff. I've hit a seesaw back and forth serpentines that twist the tractor one way, the trailer the other way, and you know, you can drop 20 mile an hour, or even well below what they suggest, because unless you can't see it coming, like at night or whatever, and they don't warn with the kind of signs, you know, in construction zones. But I've had stuff move like an inch, and then I winched it back over, just loosen the side of the offending side, and tighten up the other side, pull it back over. You know, you can move it a little bit. So that's a tip. And it's just, you do the best you can where there's zero movement. But when you got, you know, equipment like this, stuff like that, I didn't have any problem coming up here. I only did 160 some miles, but when I got to the other end, I just had a little bit of chain settling, but no equipment movement, so I was pretty good to go. A lot of start and stop, a lot of stoplights. You know, I was in secondary state highways, U.S. highways in Alabama, so it was all good. Now, people are courteous down here when I needed to get over or do this or do that. They were really courteous, flashing me and blocking and make sure I got to get it where I needed to go. And I was always waving. It's always nice to be able to get that instead of the cussing and the single finger salute. You know, I'm always happy to flash my lights and wave at everybody as they go by if they're helping me. So a little courtesy goes a long way. Other than having a dirty truck, I'm pretty happy. I mean, this has been a long time. I mean, yesterday it was like 7 hours. Today it was at least, what the heck time? Shoot, it's been another several hours. So, you know, I just had to wait for the logistics of the whole mess. We shall get it. Another reason why I use a 3-inch also is I did not want to go ahead and undo a ratchet and stick it in that hole, just so I can keep that free and clear, so I can move if I have to later down the road for another outfit or something, the next load, in case it's not that heavy. But that's it. Everything matches. It's pretty close. That's as close as I could get to straight. I wanted it a little bit straighter, you know, but what's stable up here and helps me is the feet down, forks under the tire. I'm happy with that, as long as everything's good and we've got room. It's not like this tire is at the last 4 inches of the trailer. Then I'd be nervous, and I'd probably take, you know, another. If I had holes here, I would put a 4x here. I don't have nothing to put there. Can't do it. It's like, what's the point of putting a 4x4 there? You have no way to chain it down. If I had a full rail, there would be a 4x4 here. Even trying to nail it, it's still not going to be sufficient enough pressure to stop any movement of any kind. You know, it's just the way it is. I'm going to call them and see if I can find a different trailer. But that's it, and we'll see you on the road.